Okay. So, dear students, today we are going to start with these handouts that you are looking at, and it starts with what is language. You know that in this course, linguistic theory, we are going to deal with language in different way. I mean, the theories of language learning. Okay, so, therefore, we need to know what is language as well. Students, can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay, very good. So as you can see that it starts with like it says that theories of the early stages of language acquisition, and after that we have another headline that is what is language. Okay, so we are going to start with first what is language. Come on, everyone knows what is language, but still you need to know what is language from the perspective of the linguists, from the perspective of experts. So so what is language? It is written over there. After that, we are going to learn about the importance of language learning, or what is so interesting or surprising, as you can see over here, about language learning. Language learning টা এত কঠিন বা ইন্টারেস্টিং কেন আসলে? এটাও একটা পয়েন্ট আমরা পড়ব। So we are going to start with this topic. What is language? So students, can you please read? Anyone who wants to read? Anyone wants to be volunteer? What is language?
Uh, okay, sir. May I read?
Yes, please.
Okay. Language is the primary method of human communication, but there are also other ways to communicate without the use of language. When asked to define language, we tend to think of a verbal and written system in which certain sounds and symbols come together in a specific way to convey meaning. Language in its most complex form is unique to humans, although some animals have been found to have basic communications patterns. Languages often have verbal and written components, but how we classify something like American Sign Language, animals manage to communicate. Do they have language? How did language evolve? How do we learn enough language ourselves to begin to answer this question? Thank you, sir.
One second, please. Basically, you can see it has been said that there are actually different ways to think about what is language, and they are trying to say that language is a communication system. Okay, you can see it. So, language is a communication system. So, they are trying to say that it is related with basically with human. Come on, there are other animals. For example, probably I have said it in earlier classes. I mean, in other semester probably that dogs, they have their own communication system, right? They do have their communication. So, but that is not considered as language. It has been said over here that look at it. So it is basically a pattern. It is a complex form of unique to humans. So we are considering the communication system of human. Okay. Still, many students are waiting. I don't know why. Okay, I have admitted. Okay, so probably the network issue once again. Okay, so language is a communication system, and it is all about human communication system. Okay, it's nothing but other animals do communicate, but we are not considering that. Human communication system is considered. So language is a conclusion. If we I mean draw or elicit conclusion, we are going to say that language is a system of communication. Okay, way or means of communication, and basically or in most of the cases there are actually we say that when we speak and when we write, that is actually language. When we speak and when we write, but language can be different. For example, sign language, that would be sign languages. If you watch now videos and watch news on television, you will see that you know uh, you know in one corner of the presentation in the screen, there is a person who is actually doing something and trying to say the same thing with signs. Okay, that is sign language. Body movement, which pointing to the finger and doing this and that. That is with the body gestures. They give kind of indication or they want try to communicate. That is also part of language. Okay, that is sign language. Okay, the students, you get my points.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but they are basically considering the language system or the communication system that we write on a paper, piece of paper, and when we speak out. So this is the basic thing of language. But at the same time, you should understand that if something actually communicates with you, that is actually language. আপনার সাথে কোনো কিছু যদি কমিউনিকেশন হয় সেটা কিন্তু ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ হিসেবে কাজ করতে পারে। হাউ? ফর এক্সাম্পল সাইন, সিম্বল, SIGN, সাইন are simple. For example, when we commute through the streets or main roads, we will find that there are actually some lights, traffic signals. ওখানে কি কেউ আপনাকে বলে দেয় যে দয়া করে থামুন, শুধু একটা রেড লাইট জ্বালিয়ে দেয়। The traffic system alerts us, you know, you know, giving us the red signal and green signal. When it is when the light is actually red, we stop. I mean the vehicles stop, and when the light is green, vehicle move once again, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
তাহলে এটা কিন্তু আমাকে কমিউনিকেট করছে যে এখন যাবেন এখন যাবেন না। So this is sign or symbol. So let me give you another example. Like you go to airport and you need to probably you need to go to washroom. Since it is I mean probably it is you went through
স্যার
a
আপনার
place.
কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে না স্যার।
Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
আমরা তো শুনতে পাচ্ছি। We can hear you properly.
Okay, so তাহলে probably it is a problem with few people or with that student who has said. Okay, so most of the students আপনাদের বেশিরভাগ যদি শুনতে পারে তাহলে ওটা নেটওয়ার্ক ইস্যুর জন্য হয়তো কারো কারো শুনতে পাচ্ছেন সবাই, মানে বেশিরভাগ?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So what I was trying to say that you go to airport and you do not know to whom you can ask that where is the washroom, but you can have the signal or you can be communicated with the symbol or sign on a door. It is written or it is actually drawn a symbol of a person, and that shows that it is washroom. So if it communicates with you, this is also part of language. So students, can you get my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
the language is basically it is related with human being. Though all other animals have their communication system, but in linguistics we are not going to consider that. And language, basically language is considered with signs and symbols, and there are other ways of communicating, but most of the cases we consider written and spoken form of language. Okay, so that is language, a means of communication. When you communicate with a thing, that is called language. Okay, so now the next point is that why it is so surprising that we can learn language. What is the importance of learning language and why it is very interesting? Because we are going to learn or we are going to study in this course the language learning theories, but the scientists are actually pointing out us, or they are putting lights on the important thing, like why it is so surprising to know about learning a language. So basically you can think that, I mean, from the very beginning of our birth, we grow some kind of way or system to learn a language, and it is not surprising to many students. So if I ask you, students, so is it very surprising to you that how a person absorbs or learns a language? It is surprising or it is very usual to you? What is your answer?
So it will be surprising sometimes.
Okay, can you explain your answer?
Yes, sir. Because when we, it is not about just only English. It is. You earlier said that you had seen a boy who is very fluent with French. So you must be surprised that how is this boy is being so fluent in French.
Okay, so that is a different point, but what I'm trying to explain over here that So you are right, that the thing that you have said, but I want to point out a different issue over here. I wanted to actually tell that, according to experts, learning a basic language, even the mother tongue, is also very interesting to know. It is a point of study how a child actually gradually develops this idea of learning any language. That can be his or her mother tongue as well. একটা বাচ্চা জন্মের পর থেকে 2 3 4 বছর পর্যন্ত তার কিন্তু ডেভেলপমেন্ট হয় ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজে। এই যে স্টেপটা, এটা কিন্তু একটা কমপ্লেক্স প্রক্রিয়া। এটা খুব সিম্পল, এটা ভাবার কোনো সুযোগ নেই। ফর এক্সাম্পল, ইন দিস কোর্স ইউ উইল লার্ন দ্যাট দেয়ার আর ডিফারেন্ট প্যাটার্নস অফ ক্রাইং অ্যাজ ওয়েল। বাচ্চারা যে কাঁদে, হ্যাঁ, আপনার আমার কাছে সবার কাছে মনে হয় যে এটা কান্না, কিন্তু বাচ্চার মা জানে কখন আসলে খাওয়ার জন্য কাঁদছে, কখন আসলে সে ওয়াশরুমের জন্য কাঁদছে। বুঝতে পারছেন বিষয়টা? সো এটা একটা কমপ্লেক্স প্রক্রিয়া। তারা বলতে চাচ্ছে, দ্য এক্সপার্টস আর ট্রাইং টু সে দ্যাট I mean, it is always very surprising to learn how a child or how a person or how a man or a person as an individual, that person actually develops the idea of learning any language. That can be his or her mother tongue as well. সেটা যে ফরেন কোনো ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ ব্যাপারটা তা না, ইভেন মাদার টাং শিখাতে হবে। আমরা গতকাল বলছিলাম ক্লাসে, ক্যান ইউ রিমেম্বার দ্যাট? সো ওয়েন, ফর এক্সাম্পল, ইফ ইউ কনসিডার টেন্সেস ইন বাংলা, পুরা ঘটিত বর্তমান, এটা আমাকে কেউ শিখিয়ে দেয় না যে আমি বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে গিয়েছি, কিন্তু আমি পুরা ঘটিত বর্তমান সেন্টেন্সের সঠিক ব্যবহারটা সঠিক মতো করতে পারি। এখন লিঙ্গুইস্টরা বলতে যাচ্ছেন, এক্সপার্টসরা বলতে যাচ্ছেন, এটা আসলে একটা সারপ্রাইজিং ব্যাপার, এটা একটা কঠিন ব্যাপার। মানে আমরা খুব সহজে আমরা মনে করি যে এটা খুব ন্যাচারালি তো আমি শিখে গেছি। I have learned this thing very naturally, but it is very interesting to learn that it is a difficult and complex process. And so এইটাই আর কি বলার চেষ্টা করছি। So do you get my point? So learning a language never actually very simple. It is very complex, but since it is automatized with our mother tongue, then we learn it very basically and probably without any effort for our
It's very usual for us.
very easy. We take it for granted. আরে একটা মানুষ তো ভাষা জানবে, কিন্তু চিন্তা করে দেখেন, আমরা যে মোগলির স্টোরিটা দেখি, এটা কিন্তু ফিকশন হলেও এটার কিন্তু সত্যতা আছে। এই ধরনের মানুষকে হঠাৎ হঠাৎ একটা দুইটা একবার দুইবার কিন্তু আবিষ্কার করা হয়েছে। জাঙ্গল বুক বা জাঙ্গল ম্যান যেগুলো পাওয়া যায় একটা দুইটা এরকম। সো সে কোনো কারণে মিসিং হয়ে যায়, দ্যাট পারসন, and he was discovered from the jungle and he could not utter a single word. একটা মানুষ যদি স্বাভাবিকভাবেই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শিখতে পারতো, তাহলে যে মানুষটা বনে বড় হলো বা ফরেস্টে বড় হলো, সে কেন তাহলে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজে কমিউনিকেট করতে পারছে না? সিম্পল, কারণ সে ওই সিস্টেমটার সাথে অন্তর্ভুক্ত না। সে যদি আমাদের মডার্ন সোসাইটিতে বা আমাদের ডেভেলপড সোসাইটিতে থাকতো, ইউজুয়াল সোসাইটিতে থাকতো, তাহলে কিন্তু সে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা জানতো। আমি কি বলছি বুঝতে পারছেন? ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ আমরা ধরেই নিই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ লার্নিং খুব সহজ ব্যাপার, বাট ইটস নট অ্যাট অল। ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ লার্নিং ইজ নট আ simple thing. It is very complex. It is very complex, and it starts with the crying period. There is actually the different periods of language learning: crying period, cooing period, babbling period. You will definitely understand if you observe, children at your home. আত্মীয় স্বজনের বাচ্চাদেরকে যদি ফলো করে, দেখবেন যে গা গা গু গু এই ধরনের শব্দ করছে। তারপর দাদা দাদা, দাদা দাদি খুব খুশি হয়ে যায় আর কি, যে দাদাকে প্রথমে ডাকছে। So they start with those sounds. So that is actually part of language learning. এরপরে আসে হচ্ছে যে সিঙ্গেল ওয়ার্ড আটারেন্স স্টেজ, একটা শব্দ শুধু সে বলতে পারে, then 2 words utterance, then 3 words utterance. বুঝতে পারছেন? So this is a very complex process actually. Learning a language is very complex, but we never actually consider this thing. We think that learning language is very simple, but if we theoretically try to understand, we understand that it is very complex. It is very difficult. চিন্তা করে দেখেন, যে লোকটা, the person, if a person comes from Australia, it is very difficult for him or her to utter some sounds in Bangla. বাংলা বলাটা তার জন্য কিন্তু খুব ডিফিকাল্ট। ফর এক্সাম্পল, আপনি কোনোদিনই ওই ভদ্রলোক বা ভদ্রমহিলাকে বুঝাতে পারবেন না আষাঢ়, আষাঢ়, আষাঢ়ের যে উচ্চারণ, এটা আমরা বাংলাদেশে অনেক উচ্চারণ করতে পারবো না। বুঝতে পারছেন? আষাঢ় মাস, অনেক বৃষ্টি হয়, আষাঢ়। শূন্য যেটা, অনেকগুলো ডর কিন্তু বাংলায় আছে। ইট ইজ নট existing in English. So it is very difficult for them to articulate. আমার জন্য এটা কিন্তু খুব সহজ. It is very simple. But it is very difficult for a person whose mother tongue is not Bangla. So learning a language is always very interesting. Learning a language is always very difficult, but it is a complex process. Okay, this is the thing. I mean, when you are studying for exam, probably you can consider that you can study this thing as a topic. What is language? What is the importance of learning language? Okay, importance of learning language. This is the point. You can study from here. After that, we are going to know the language learning theories. What are the major theories? Okay, so as we want to start from 7 great theories, as we were saying it in the last class. Okay, there are 7 great theories. So the students, can you see it properly? I mean, the font is actually
Yes, sir.
short probably. I mean, very tiny one, I guess. আচ্ছা, এখন একটু বড় করলাম। এখন কি সুবিধা হচ্ছে না আগেরটা ভালো ছিল?
Yes, sir.
This-
এখন better.
This one is better, right?
Yes.
Okay. So 7 great theories. So there are actually 7 great theories. I mean, how we know or how we can study the language learning theories. মানুষ যে ভাষা শিখে, কিভাবে মানুষ শিখে, এরকম 7টা গ্রেট থিওরি আছে ভাষা শেখার পদ্ধতিগুলো নিয়ে। সো এরা হচ্ছিল যে এদের নাম আপনারা বিভিন্ন জায়গায় শুনবেন। বেসিক্যালি দে আর philosophers and they are experts and they have explained how a person learns language. Okay, এটা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ লার্নিং এর কথা বলছি আমরা। এটা মাদার টাং অথবা সেকেন্ড ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ বা ফরেন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ এমন কোনো কিছু না। বেসিক্যালি লার্নিং ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ। ওকে, একটা ভাষা শেখা, সেটা মাদার টাং হতে পারে, ফরেন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ হতে পারে। So but you need to understand that when we consider mother tongue, it is always acquisition, and for foreign language or any language other than mother tongue, that is actually learning. Okay, you need to understand that. Okay, so students, what do you see? We can see that Plato's problem, the first theory is actually given by Plato. Okay, so Plato কি বলেছে পড়েন তো দেখি। Is there anyone who wants to read Plato's
Sir, may I read?
Yes, please.
The writing of Plato
So
stretches all.
why don't you, turn on your camera? You are in class.
Sir, I can't turn on my camera because it's not working right now.
Okay, so fix it up. Okay.
Okay. Plato's problem. The writings of Plato stretches all the way back to the beginning of Western philosophical thought. But Plato was already posing problems critical to modern linguistic discourse. In the nature versus nature debate, Plato tended
But, look carefully.
nurture.
Okay, so that is the interesting thing, and it is very interesting and important as well. Nature versus nurture. Nature, nurture. তার মানে একটা হচ্ছে হলো ন্যাচারালি হচ্ছে, আরেকটাকে তৈরি করা হচ্ছে। বুঝতে পারছেন? So it is very important to learn. তার মানে একটা অ্যাকুইজিশন, আরেকটা হচ্ছে লার্নিং এর কথা বলছি। ওকে, সো একটা হচ্ছে বেসিক, জন্মগতভাবে আমরা নিচ্ছি, which is nature. Another one is nurture, which is institutionally done. Okay, in the nature versus nurture debate,
Plato tended to side with nature, believing that knowledge was innate.
okay, আমরা এখানে থামছি। আচ্ছা, so dear students, I want to tell you that probably since we have started just the class now, probably you can get this thing confusing, and you can think that probably these are very difficult or complex. Don't worry, try to study and try to do classes regularly. I am going to give you the lectures, and if you study this thing at home, it will be very easy after 2 or 3 classes. Okay, but now your task is actually to study and do this thing very attentively. একটু মনোযোগ দিয়ে শুনেন, আস্তে আস্তে এগুলো ক্লিয়ার হয়ে যাবে। Don't worry, but রেগুলার এগুলো পড়ে ফেলতে হবে। The thing that we have studied today, your responsibility is to actually study this thing once again at your home as well. Okay, so এখানে প্লেটো বলতে চাচ্ছেন যে, so Plato is trying to say that he wants to go with the innate thing. তার মানে উনি বলতে চাচ্ছেন human being basically learn language naturally. মানুষ জন্মগতভাবে ভাষা শিক্ষার একটা পদ্ধতি নিয়ে জন্ম, এই জন্য মানুষ ভাষা বলতে পারে বা ব্যবহার করতে পারে। So, আমরা বিভিন্ন থিওরি পড়তে গিয়ে when we are going to study different theories we will learn that this is not actually 100% correct. There are actually some nurture thing as well. আমি একটু আগে একটা উদাহরণ দিচ্ছিলাম, এক ভদ্রলোক বা একটা মানুষকে জঙ্গল থেকে আপনি উদ্ধার করার পরে দেখতে পারলেন হি ক্যানট স্পিক আর আটার আ সিঙ্গেল ওয়ার্ড। যদি জন্মগতভাবেই মানুষ ভাষা শিক্ষার পদ্ধতিটা নিয়ে জন্মাতো, তাহলে ওই ভদ্রলোক বা ভদ্রমহিলা যে সমাজের সাথে মিশে না, সে কেন ভাষা জানে না? তার মানে শুধুমাত্র জন্মগত ভাবে ভাষা শিক্ষার পদ্ধতি নিয়ে জন্মায়, এই ধারণাটা পুরোপুরি সঠিক নয়। Okay, so Plato's idea, but that is actually criticism of Plato. But what Plato is trying to say that human beings are born with the ability to learn language or speak language. Okay, is it clear? Plato is trying to say that human being has the system or ability to learn or speak in language from their birth. It is natural. এটা সহজ। আমরা যেমন খিদা লাগলে খাবো, ঘুম আসলে ঘুমাবো, ভাষাও একটা ভাষার কথা বলবো, এটাও প্লেটো বলতে চাচ্ছে এটা ন্যাচারাল। ওকে, সো দিস ইজ দ্য থিং, দিস ইজ সেড অ্যাবাউট প্লেটো, ইনেট। ওকে ওকে সো ওকে, এরপর আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি কার্টেসিয়ান লিঙ্গুইস্টিক্স, it is given by Descartes, though it is written like DESCARTES, it seems like Descartes, but it is pronounced like Descartes. Okay, Descartes. Okay, Cartesian linguist. According to Descartes, what he is trying to say, can anyone please read? According to the key, Srimadul, you were reading the
Yes.
last one, yes. Centuries later.
Cartesian linguistic by Descartes. Centuries later, the French philosopher Descartes took a crack at linguistic philosophy. In his opinion, language acquisition was a simple and easy process, barely worthy of his attention. Like Plato, he believed in the innateness of language because he thought it reflected the general rationality of human beings. But rather than Descartes himself, it was the rationalist movement that he symbolized that was thriving in the time period when he lived that was most important for linguistics.
Okay, we would like to stop over here. So this is actually more explanation about how Cartesian theory has been developed by some other experts. How it actually, worked as in the history to develop this idea. Okay, so but basic point is written with underline, and according to Descartes, he is also supporting the innateness. People, according to Descartes, he's trying to say that people learn language naturally. Did you get my point? Descartes ওই প্লেটোর মতো ন্যাচারাল পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউটাকে সাপোর্ট করছে। ওকে, so Descartes is trying to say that we learn language because we have the system from our birth. Naturally we can speak in language. Okay, after that we have Locke's tabula rasa. There is another person whose name is Locke, and he's trying to say something different. Okay, Dhruvo Mankin, are you there, Dhruvo?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible for you to read these lines by Locke?
Locke tabula rasa.
Tabula rasa. Okay, tabula rasa. Yes, please.
Most people familiar with Locke's philosophy have heard of his concept of trouble rose.
Tabula rasa.
Rasa, or the blank state, to state very fly and in a simplify.
Okay, so probably you have some problem. Let me read it out. So according to, thank you, Dhruvo, for trying. So Locke is trying to say that he has compared, learning language theories or learning a language with tabula rasa. Tabula rasa, the meaning of tabula rasa is actually blank slate. You understand slate? Anyone here understand slate? Slate key. Slate হচ্ছে হলো যে আমরা কি আপনাদের এই জেনারেশন পেয়েছে কিনা জানি না, when we were kids we
So
used
there
to,
is this blank thing we usually write on with a chalk, using a chalk.
it's like a, yeah, it's like a, a small piece of board, blackboard, and with chalk we write. Okay, so এখন তো আপনারা হলো যে নোটপ্যাডে লিখেন, মানে কম্পিউটার প্যাডে লিখেন, এখন তো আর স্লেটে লেখার সুযোগ নাই আপনার। সো সো এই স্লেটের সাথে তুলনা হচ্ছে, বুঝতে পারছেন, একটা ছোট সাইজের ব্ল্যাক বোর্ডের মতো, যেটা আমরা স্লেট করি। So Locke is trying to say that our brain and our, I mean, mind is actually a blank slate. When we experience things in the society, then we develop, and we actually experience this thing from the society, and we put things one by another, one after another, and in that way we learn language. Okay, do you find a difference with, I mean, Descartes, what Descartes and Plato said, tabula rasa, I mean Locke is actually saying something different. Okay, so he's not trying to say that naturally we learn language. Rather, he's trying to say that we learn language, but we do not come up with the, from birth, we do not come up with the, I mean, system. We learn it with our experience. Our system or our head or our brain is actually very blank. We come with a blank state, blank space, and we put things in those blank space, and after that we learn a language. So students, could you get my point?
Yes, sir. He
Okay.
shared a different ideology. I mean, from Plato and Descartes.
Yes. Okay. So read this thing at home. It will be very clear. Don't worry. If you do not understand, point out the things that you could not understand, and please do ask questions in the next class. Okay. We are going to solve all the problems, and we are going to have discussion hours in class. Okay. Now behaviorism given by Skinner. He is also very famous linguist, and he is very known for his idea. According to Skinner, he is trying to say that we learn a language by practicing. Basically Locke and Skinner are kind of same. Okay, so Skinner is trying to say that it is like behavior. Okay, every day we can change our behavior, every day we can develop our behavior, every day we can develop a skill. For example, if a person, I mean, plays cricket every day, he would be a very good cricketer. If a person practices to draw a picture, that person would become a very good painter. Okay, the students, আপনারা কি বুঝতে পারছেন আমার কথা?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
যারা বিহেভিয়ারিজমে বিশ্বাস করে তারা মনে করে বলতে যাচ্ছে, I mean, Skinner is the pioneer of this thought on school. They are trying to say that like other skills we can develop and we can learn the language. প্রতিদিন যদি আমরা গান গাইতে চেষ্টা করি, আমরা যখন গান ভালো শিখতে পারবো হয়তো একটা পর্যায়ে, সেরকম আমরা প্রতিদিন যদি প্র্যাকটিস করি সেভাবে আমরা ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শিখতে পারবো। We can learn language by practicing every day. Okay, so this is the idea given by behaviorist theory or Skinner. Okay, so after that, so there are actually different other, I mean, explanations of this thing. We are going to learn that thing definitely, but now for the time being we are knowing the basic thing. Okay, the basic thing about the theory. Therefore, so we have after that Chomsky, Noam Chomsky. He's very I mean, he's a philosopher and activist. You know about him probably, and he's also a linguist as well. So what Chomsky says, Chomsky actually says that he's once again actually going with the theory of what Descartes and Plato. So Chomsky is trying to say that from our birth we have a device that is called language acquisition device or LAD, and we have universal grammar. We have a system. Sorry about that. Okay, we have a system. So if you basically click on this thing, it goes to the internet. If you have internet connection, and okay, so universal grammar, you can have a look. Okay, so the picture is given Chomsky, and who is Chomsky and what is universal grammar. You can actually have a look on this thing. You have internet connection. Okay. So according to Chomsky, I mean, language is learned basically from birth. We have a system, we have a automatized device. That device cannot be touched. এটা আমাদের মাথার ভিতরে বা আমাদের মনের ভিতরে থাকে, এটা একটা সিস্টেম. So naturally we learn the language. বুঝতে পারছেন চমস্কির আইডিয়াটা? চমস্কি trying to say that we learn language basically in a natural way. We are born with the ability to speak in a language. Okay, this is the theory given by Chomsky. By practicing we cannot develop, rather it is the natural thing, it is God gifted probably. Okay, after that we have Schumann's acculturation model and we have Krashen's model. Okay, Krashen's is trying to say that Krashen has actually given 5 hypotheses. Okay, Krashen has given 5 hypotheses. We learn languages with those theories. Okay, so that is actually explained over here. You need to study this thing. Krashen is trying to say that language is a way, difficult, I mean in a complex way, which should be monitored, and but it should be filtered. But there should be, I mean a controlled way of filtering. বুঝতে পারছেন? ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ শিখে মানুষ ফিল্টারিং এর মাধ্যমে, ছাঁকনি, আমরা যখন বাসায় চা বানাই, হ্যাঁ, চায়ের কেটলেটা বা হচ্ছে যে চায়ের পটটা থেকে যখন কাপে চা ঢালা হয় তখন একটা ফিল্টার মানে একটা ছাঁকনির মাধ্যমে চায়ের পানিটা বা লিকারটা কিন্তু চায়ের কাপে পড়ে। বুঝতে পারছেন? ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ যখন আমরা শিখি, ক্র্যাশন বলতে যাচ্ছে এরকম মনিটরিং এর মধ্য দিয়ে যায়। মনিটরিংটা টিচারের মনিটরিং হতে পারে, গার্ডিয়ানের মনিটরিং হতে পারে, দ্য পারসন হু ইজ অ্যাকচুয়ালি অ্যাসোসিয়েটেড উইথ দ্য স্টুডেন্ট অর দ্য পারসন হু ইজ লার্নিং আ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ। সো ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ লার্নিংটা উনি বলতে যাচ্ছেন একটা ফিল্টার্ড পদ্ধতি, এবং এই ফিল্টার বা মনিটরিংটা আসলে লিমিটেড হইতে হবে। আপনি একটা চিন্তা করে দেখেন, আপনার চা যখন আপনি ঢালছেন ওইখানে যদি ফিল্টার অনেক বেশি হয়, ছাঁকনি যদি অনেক মোটা হয় বা বেশি হয়, তাহলে লিকার কিন্তু পড়াটা বন্ধ হয়ে যাবে। কথাটা বুঝতে পারছেন? সো অ্যাকর্ডিং টু Krashen, if you filter a lot, then language learning can be defeated. Language learning can be prohibited or hindered. তার মানে মনিটরিং থাকতে হবে, কিন্তু সেটা একটা লিমিটেড পর্যায়ে। সো and Krashen has said about language acquisition and learning as well. He said that some languages are learned, some languages are acquired. কোনটা acquired? The natural, the mother tongue is acquired, and any other language that other than mother tongue is actually learned. Okay, so this is the idea given by Krashen. Okay, so don't worry students, we are going to learn this thing. I mean, Krashen's theory is actually learned or studied differently, and it has actually nice and broad explanation. You are going to study, don't worry. So after that we have Schumann's acculturation theory. According to Schumann, you have when you are migrated and when you are actually mixed with the society, then you can learn a language. Okay, so Schumann is trying to say that when you mix with when you have access to a language or a community, then you can learn a language successfully. কথা বুঝতে পারছেন? ফর এক্সাম্পল, আপনি যদি এখন অস্ট্রেলিয়া চলে যান, হ্যাঁ, একটা পর্যায়ে গিয়ে আপনি বা আপনার পরের জেনারেশন যতটা ভালো ইংরেজি জানবে, আপনার পক্ষে ততটা হয়তো জানা সম্ভব না, বা আপনি যদি বাংলাদেশে থাকেন ওইটা ততটা সম্ভব না। বুঝতে পারছেন স্টুডেন্টস, Shubhrodev and others? So when you have access to any language, when you mix with a society, then when you acculture, এটাকেই বলে acculturation। আপনি যখন কোনো কিছুর সাথে মিশে যাবেন তখন আপনি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা ভালোভাবে শিখতে পারবেন। This is the idea or theory given by John Schumann. Okay, dear students, these are the 7 great theories of language learning. Don't worry, we are going to discuss this thing in other classes as well. And now I would like to